Not quite as slick as last week. I had the volume of the tablet turned down then, by accident. Oh, fuck. Sorry, Ben, were you saying something then?
Just saying, Ben.
Okay, it's Chaos. Hello, willkommen, bienvenue, konnichiwa, ni hao, jambo, marhaba. It's time for the Armis Inquisition. What, Sambo?
No.
Hiya. Hiya.
Yeah? Oh, yeah.
It's time for the Armis Inquisition yet again, episode 221 on Sunday, the 27th of February 2022. Coming in your ears from the salubrious confines of Amish HQ. I'm Amish Phil.
I'm Amish Ben.
We're no Amish Matt.
We haven't. I was just waiting for him.
The dwarf, the cripple, and the mother of madness.
No, the mother of madness isn't here.
No, I'm going to have to do it. Hang on, let me try it properly.
Let
Let me try it. Try it properly.
The dwarf, and the mother of madness.
Why am I the dwarf?
He's the dwarf. Matt's the dwarf.
Yes, he's gone.
He's gone. He's not here. And got Ryan 7 back. How you doing, Ryan?
I'm all right. Slightly worse for wear from a very good night last night, but I'm hoping to bring you some delicious numbers on a plate of geometry.
Thanks for stepping in short notice.
That's all right. It was a foolish thing to do for me to come
Wow.
in such a state, but there you go. Hair of the dog.
I'm sure it'll be fine. And yeah, you've been teasing me with your geometry and your numbers for the last few weeks.
I know, but we keep on like talking in between the slides and stuff.
Well, yeah, because like I was saying, like maybe after you're gone last week, that this stuff is so rich, and there's so many different levels of meaning and everything. You can't really rush through it because you're missing out if you try and rush through these subjects.
Yeah.
So I think it's important to sort of take our time and try and explore all the different areas rather than try and hash through it
and that's the real meat in these. When I've listened back to these and like enjoyed them myself, I must say, you know, that's the meaty parts when we're all, you know, when somebody's asking a question, it's like, oh yeah, do you know what I mean? There's many gaps to be filled in.
Yeah. And you know, we're northern and we're bloody miserable and the weather's fucking shit. It's been good today. It's been
Quite
nice.
lovely, hasn't it? Yeah, I went out for a good while today.
Yeah.
It's like, look, there's vitamin D everywhere.
True, and I love a bit of Vit D.
Soak it up.
Yeah, I really did soak it up. It was gorgeous. I mean, a bit of a chill wind, but we are in England and it is February.
Just fresh.
I was talking to a guy outside the restaurant today. I was like, I hope this lasts till spring. You know, if it's like this, I'll be well happy because we've had it rough, haven't we? Last week, all these storms and the weather's been pretty grim since the solstice. So this is that time of year where everything's starting to look up and.
That's one of the things I love about Britain, that, you know, when the spring comes, everybody comes out and, you know, there's like this new life after winter, which very much fits into what we've been talking about. Yeah, absolutely.
Rebirth,
yeah. And I was saying last year, with all the lockdown stuff, like, it's not going to last much past spring because you can't put English people in a house after spring. It's just impossible. Nope. You can't.
No. So, how do you want to play it? Do you want to like do a quick recap or go straight into the next slide or what?
Yeah, we can do a little recap and then I think you and I can have a quick discussion about the fundamentals of some of this processional stuff. And I think because you know quite a bit about that, and
I don't think so.
I'll just watch.
Don't rely on me, mate.
I know you know this stuff.
I watched a YouTube video. That's it.
Right, so
These books are just wallpaper.
Oh, fuck. Go on.
So, go on then. Go on, let's start. So, in Rivington, in the north of England, there are some pillars from a 13th century church. And upon these pillars are some Christian icons, including a sator square, which is a very famous magical talisman that reads Sator, Aripo, Tenet, Opera, Rotas. One of the things that's most remarkable about this talisman is that you can read it in lots of different directions. It means the sower, Saturn, holds the works of the wheels. On the previous episodes, we've discussed many things on these pillars, including this works of the wheels, which is the greatest analogy for the knowledge we've been talking about. Some of it goes to some maths and some geometry that we'll go into depth today. And in the previous episodes, we've talked about, certain shamanic things like magic mushrooms, for starters, as a gateway to shamanism, but also a technique involving not thinking, like transcendental meditation. Symbolized particularly by, all this stuff is particularly symbolized by the pole star and the heavens moving around it. And the main thing being that you kind of stop thinking, connect yourself to the pole star, i.e. the pole star is a still point around which the heavens move. So you become that still point. And according to the mystics, this is where they derive a lot of the Harry Potter style magic powers, which you should take with a pinch of salt. However, my recent investigations are showing slightly different results, but that's an ongoing process. However, these magicians of the past had a lot of things going on in the stars, in these memes that are constellations, and they've put in all the mystery traditions, and by decoding these things, which are essentially on the pillars, we can derive many benefits, including health benefits and healing.
Which would be handy.
Yeah, I'm actually at it now.
No, it's these vape things. I do like them, but if you're not using them all the time, they really dry out my throat.
Do they?
And tickle me.
Yeah, I like the big chunky ones. They're wet. Too wet.
Wetter on the throat.
Yes. So, we've traced this symbolism from these pillars, indeed from the modern time, and in the last episode we traced it back as far as Göbekli Tepe when we looked at the famous vulture pillar, which had on the vulture as Cygnus, the swan, which is a shamanic emblem. You'll know that emblem from the ugly duckling. The ugly duckling not being a duckling at all, but being ugly, and then transforming, metamorphosing into this swan, which is exactly the same myth as is on that constellation of the Cygnus. Next to that, we saw a ball next to the vulture on this pillar, and beneath that, a headless shaman figure. Yeah. The ball being his head and the pole star, and around that was the leg of a bull, which is basically the plough. So we've pulled all these things together. So aside from all this shamanic stuff, this spiritual reconnection stuff, these guys have a kind of perfected calendar. Now, obviously, we have a calendar of 365 days a year. Right. But what they did was have this sacred calendar, which was 360 and 5 days. 360 being a perfect circle to us in degrees. You could have a circle of 365 degrees, but there's a reason there's 360 degrees. And just as is the point of the pillars, which has the god Saturn on them, and this god that's in this Sator square is Saturn. He's the god of time. He's a time lord. So now this maths that we're going to start to understand is all about time, harmonics, music, and many other absolutely fascinating things which are encompassed in places like Stonehenge, the pyramid. And if we get far enough in this episode, which I'm hoping we will, we'll get onto some of my personal discoveries, which is a pattern. A sacred geometry pattern which binds all of these things together. And although other people I came to find out had found sections of this pattern, what they didn't have was skills in Photoshop, and they were able to put this pattern in lots of different mystical places and realize just who was using this pattern and just how far back this thing goes. It goes back if I'm correct, it goes back a frightening distance, and
that is 60s.
Yeah, I mean, they were pretty frightening in the 60s. All those blouses everywhere. Yeah, the 60s. Beware. So, we might as well get into the slides unless you have anything to add. No, sorry, not the slides. Let's talk about procession.
Oh,
so
right.
I think Phil would be a good person to start with the actual. What's the foundations of procession, Phil? What is the thing? What is procession? If you could sum it up.
It's something to do with like the wobble of the Earth on its axis, And what's interesting about procession is how slowly... It's like most people think of the motions of the Earth. We have the rotation once every 24 hours.
The day.
And then we have the orbit. So we orbit around the sun once every 365 and a quarter. Just shy of a quarter, I think. Day.
The year.
But we also have this third motion, and it's to do with the wobble. And it's like if you imagine... a line going from the North Pole to the South Pole, that's the Earth, and you've got a line here. Well, the Earth is actually slightly off kilter like that, 23.5 degrees, something like that.
On average.
And it's really hard to, like a ruler would be a good way of explaining it, to demonstrate it, but our Earth has this other motion, and it's like this.
Yeah.
It's like a spinning top.
So it's drawing circles in one direction at the top and the other, clockwise on one pole and counterclockwise on the other.
One might say a wheel.
Yeah. Yeah, a wheel in the sky, basically. Yeah, if you imagine the line of the North to South Pole carrying on above the Earth, yeah, it would draw a line, a circle in the heavens. But what's interesting is this motion is so slow. 1 degree of precession takes about 72 years.
Right, okay.
About the length of a human life, coincidentally, or not.
Or not.
And it seems that from like what we've seen from ancient megalithic architecture, that people thousands of years ago were well aware of this movement. And it begs the question, how on earth could they be aware of this movement, which is so slow? You know, a full cycle of procession is 25,920 years?
Mm-hmm.
Roughly.
360 times 72.
And this is where we get our ages. You know, they say the age of Aquarius.
Yeah.
So
Times people, was that?
Yeah. If you break the long count, it's sometimes called this 25,920 year cycle. If you divide that into 12, like a zodiac, then an age of Pisces lasts 2,160
years.
2160. Make a mental note of all these numbers, because these numbers are important.
72, 216, 360, or 36. The zeros really don't matter.
432, 25920, all divisible by 9.
Oh, okay.
All add up to 9 when you add all the digits together.
Integers, yeah. So 25920 adds up to 18. 1 and 8 is 9.
Called digital routing.
Digital routing, yeah. 432, 4 plus 3 plus 2 is 9. 72 years for 1 degree of precession. 7 plus 2 is 9.
Is 9.
They all add up to 9. It's crazy.
Okay, so excuse me. So now imagine a clock or a wheel, and this wheel's split up into 360. Each degree is worth 72 years. So now you could say, we got lots of degrees, 360 of those, but then we've got lots of 72s in each degree. Now you start doing the maths. So do we have a calculator, Andy? This might be fun for somebody.
I don't.
Hang on. Yeah, I've got one, yeah.
This will be fun.
It's going to buzz, isn't it? No, it'll be fine. Should be fine.
Cool. So let's start with processional week. The numbers that start popping out straight away are these special numbers. And don't forget, we're talking about time and music and harmony. So we got 72, yeah? So 72 times 7 is a week.
So that's a week of procession.
And I know that's 432.
I might have put it wrong.
I hope I know it's 432.
72 times 7?
Yeah. It better be 432.
It's this number, but it's
54,
still
504.
Works.
Sorry, yeah, my fault. 504, so 54 is one of these numbers.
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay, so now, 72.
Yep.
Times 30.
So that would be a month of procession.
Yes.
2160.
Mm-hmm.
2160, which is a processional month. So the age of Aquarius will last 2,160 years, as the age of Pisces has lasted 2,160 years. So now you can say, well, what's 6 months? Or a third of a year? or you take your pick. Come on, let's do 6 months. So
there's 72 times 180.
12,960.
Okay, there you go. What are these numbers? You can double that and get 25,920.
Is it all because they're multiples of 9 anyway?
So we'll see some stuff about this. It's very mystical, 9, and it's to do with the decimal system. Now, if we were using, so that's called base 10. You got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, and 0 as a placeholder for the next level up, and you're just leveling up every time. If you do it with base 11, base 7, base whatever, you get a similar thing where the last number kind of repeats itself and does all these other funky things like we've been seeing. However, there's something about base 10 where all of the numbers line up and serve a function, almost like logic gates on a circuit.
Right.
And it's strange to say the least. And the fact that so many people, like the Sumerians, time and all these numbers come from the Sumerians, or probably way before that, but we know it from the Sumerians and Babylonians.
Because they wrote it down.
Yeah. And basically, all this stuff is in base 10, but they're counting in 12s because they realised there was something about base 10, but they're counting in 12s because it's easier. 12, 24, 12, 6, 3. It's just easier to multiply and divide. And if you're doing it 10, you got 10, 5. Oh, where am I going to go? I can't half that again. So the use of 3s, 6s, 12s, base 60 basically is because of a number. There's one number that's really important to the Sumerians, and it's the reason why it's on base 60, and that number is 5040. That number you just pulled up.
5040.
Yeah, 5040.
Yeah.
And that's because it's ultra harmonic, really divisible, and that's kind of when you get to that scale of number, it's divisible by so many other numbers. It's got so many other factors in it. It's like this magical number.
And 5040 adds up to 9.
I was going to ask if people use base 10 because they had like
10 fingers.
Yeah, but then there's something about that, isn't there?
Yeah, well,
we're talking about universal harmonies and things like that. Man is the measure of all things, as they say, and it turns out all these measurements, as we'll see, this all gets into golden ratio and things like that. So we are golden ratio. We are
Vitruvian man.
Exactly. Vitruvian totally fits into that pattern that I'm talking about before.
A foot.
A foot is also, I think, the length between your ankle,
and
your wrist and your elbow,
your cankle,
and well, and L is an old name for Saturn. This limit guy, who's, if you think about it, he's the measurements. He's your
L. Oh, hang on. L is an old name for Saturn. Because L is an old name for God in the sort of Hebrew tradition. Elohim,
isn't it? This is the whole point in all these presentations. That God, his name's obvious. That God's sometimes called Elohim, means gods and goddesses, which is a reference to Saturn being the king of all the planets. That's what that is. But yeah, like Elites, elevator, the elites. These L words are all the top guys, the kings, the hidden ones. So I've lost my track for the first time since the very first episode.
We were just talking about procession and the numbers, the importance of the numbers. What you find is that these same numbers keep coming up, whether it's 1080 or 1216, is it?
Well, let's do 1080, 2160. What's 1080 to you guys? In
TV,
normal life?
man.
TV, exactly. 2160 is 4K.
I was going to go snowboarding, but...
But yeah.
You've got 432 with middle A.
Yeah,
so
and that's Pythagorean tuning. Yeah,
432 hertz.
Mm-hmm. Well, it got changed to 440 but in the early 20th century, I think.
Yeah, but equal temperance. It does make sense. I can kind of see why they did it. It just so they can even out all the keys because there'd be a gap.
Tune.
Yeah, concert pitch. Aside from that, all these numbers, as we said, are beautiful and super harmonic, as we've discussed in previous episodes. It's more like you can add, you can divide it easily, you can multiply it easily. It's divisible by, if you need to divide 5040 by, some 255 or something like that, it probably divides. It's the most likely number to divide by the number. Then it all comes down to base 60 at base 60. base 60, which the Sumerians were using for time.
It's universal as well. I mean, across the language, there's no one who like has an extra number. Like, there's no like Chinese number between 6 and 7.
Mathematics is the base of it's the base of reality. It's mathematics.
It is, and it's good how everyone realizes that.
It works from the very small to the astronomical. Like the Earth's we were talking the other week about the relationship in eclipses between the Earth, the Sun, and the Moon. These numbers are encoded in that relationship. I'm going to forget and butcher them now, but it's something like the Moon is 432 times the distance between the Earth, to the Earth as it is from the Sun, or something like that. This relationship is built in.
There's quite a few slides on that stuff.
Let's not
enjoy that.
Let's not jump the gun.
So, shall we begin the actual slides themselves?
I don't see why not. Here we go.
Okay, so we were talking about Babylon and Sumeria earlier, and if you just
how bright is that? Yeah, go on. You carry on. Go on.
Yeah, it's a bit blown out, isn't it? So on the right column there, there's a list of numbers, and that's called the Sumerian Kings List, and this is detailing from, I think there's a black line halfway down that list, and that details a separating of what modern scholars call mythical time from actual time. So if you look down that column of numbers, we'll have to wait for a second.
Sorry, mate. I'm fucking around with the camera.
If you just move it over a little, would be cool. So there's a list of numbers there, and these are the ages that the kings lived for in Sumeria. And if you look down that list, a lot of these numbers, I can't see. Can you see them there, Ben? Can you read those?
Yeah.
Got 720 there. 720 hit P. What have we got? 186. That sounds like.
Yeah, there's a few that aren't, and I'm yet to figure those out. But there are so many on there that
we've
are.
Got 432.
432.
Got 360.
Yeah, 360.
Poor old Zamog, he only made it to 140.
900. Yeah. There's a lot of sort of sacred numbers there.
Yeah. 420. That's a sacred number.
That is very sacred number. Yeah. So again, we've got this image that we've talked about in previous episodes of two polar opposites around a central tree, and then some kind of a sky deity above it. What it's really representing is the pole of the earth, or the pole of your spine, pointing up to the pineal gland if it's your spine, pointing up to the pole star if it's cosmological, and this dualities thing. These guys are of the sea, feminine, and of the earth, and the men. So they got this duality about them, and the root of all these teachings are called the serpent knowledge, and that is essentially his serpent knowledge. Real understanding of these polar opposites, how to obliterate each other, and go into this null place in your mind. Usually done by drugs. We can see there's a colour image of some stone there, of a hand holding opium poppies.
Yeah. All right.
Yeah. So that's the biggest clue, and we can see what we've called Oanes previously, one of these 7 sages, which are represented by the plough. He is one of the 7 sages on the left. He's doing the foot forward, like showing he's in motion, which is exactly the same angle as the Earth is at. So showing you this procession stuff's old. He's holding his handbag, which we'll get into a bit later, but is totally related to these drugs and this knowledge that he carries. And it's also a kind of it's the main part of the bag is the Earth. The square of the earth, and then the handle is the sky. What it actually is a it's given away here actually. So in many pictures, I can't quite see on these ones, but in many pictures he's holding his hand in what's called the fig position. Now, still in lots of countries, that means.
All right, so your thumb is sort of tucked between your first and second finger.
It's a sexual. It's a willy inside a fanny.
Yeah.
So normally, often he's doing that at the tree.
Right.
Now, if that often is a fig tree in inverted commas, all these things being symbolic, whether you've heard of a fig tree that's just
Adam and Eve, the fig leaf.
The fig leaf. So the thing about the fig is that aside from wasps, which pollinate it, there's nothing else that pollinates it. So you've got to do it by hand.
Really?
So they'd have the bucket of water and pollen. And fertilize the tree. They'd take a pine cone, could get all the pollen and stuff in there, and they can sprinkle it on the tree.
No way.
Now, what it's also is that bag's in front of his sexual parts. He's dipping into that bag, and he's fertilizing the pineal at the top of the tree with it.
And it's kind of reminiscent, if you were a church goer when you were at school, of the church walking down, the priest walking down the aisle, dipping.
Sprinkling on you.
Yeah.
Hello, here you go.
Absolutely. And he does it from a little bucket. It's not like he's,
Yes, it's borrowed. It's a borrowed.
Yeah, it's carried along.
Symbolism.
It's been said many times that these fish hats are the same fish hats as the bishops. Yeah. And it's often denied and said, it comes from the 1300s and all this stuff. Yeah, fair enough. But there were many other instances going back to Cabell and Janus, which were right on the first episode of all this stuff. And they wear those hats and have the keys and all these other symbols that are so old.
The keys, that was important for the god Janus, was it?
It was. Janus holds the keys to the new year because it's January.
Oh, right. Keys are important. That was important for the Romans because there was a famous temple of Janus in Rome. And the idea was it was shut all the time unless Rome was at war. So it was pretty much open all the time. Right. But that was the whole thing. It was like, it was locked.
Those gates,
keys,
they were locked.
This is locked, it's off limits. We only open the Temple of Janus when Rome is at war.
Right.
Cool, huh?
Janus a two-faced god as well.
Yeah, he's Capricorn and Aquarius. Because Capricorn's December, Aquarius is January.
Right. Aquarius always looking forward.
Capricorn looking back. Capricorn's a hoary old man. Janus is the young fella. So, it's this same stuff over and over again that we've discussed in these previous episodes. And it's really... So, it's often talked about what's the Holy Grail? What's the Philosopher's Stone? These are all analogies for the same thing. And it is all this information collected together. This body of knowledge, which is the spine, the drug, the pole star, the maths. And they're all underneath this same umbrella of this wisdom teaching. It's like a set of images that you get. And it's like, okay, this has got layers to it. It's got maths in it, early science. It's got shamanism in there, how to perfect yourself. It's kind of a book of life, really. And as Hamlet's Mill garbledly tells you, it's the beginnings of science, essentially. Oh, you son of a bitch. Hamlet's Mill, an essay investigating Hingle, Bangle, Jingle, Flangle, Toogle.
Yeah.
Hertha von Deschend and Santiago.
Yeah, such a son of a bitch to read this.
It's an absolute turd. But I remember we were doing the podcast when I read it and I said, it was good. Yeah, it's all there.
It's all in here.
It's all there. It was like, it was good, but I'm going to have to read this again in 20 years when I know more.
Yeah, well,
because so much of it went over my head.
I'd already gotten my head around most of this stuff, and then it was like, oh, I should really try and read that book again, and read it, and it was still a bloody nightmare.
Yeah, because it's not written like
by a human
or for humans
or a soul.
It's not written for humans.
Written by the ghost of a drunk alien.
But yeah,
it's got nice pictures.
Hamlet's Mill is the wheel of time we're talking about, the processional cycle, the long count. That's the whole point of it. Shakespeare, or whoever wrote Shakespeare, Francis Bacon, John Dee, whoever you think it was, they knew this stuff and they encoded it in
Edward de Vere. Right. My suspicions is...
We'll have to save that for another episode.
Yes. Okay. So just to show you that it is this death, birth, resurrection stuff, you've got two priests death birthing a mummy that looks like a worm there. Can you see that guy?
Yeah, the Persian priests.
Yeah. So it's just this death, birth, resurrection stuff. Just this simple thing that can alter your life completely. So should we do the next slide?
Those poppies.
Yeah.
Would they be suitable for flicking pollinated water around? And the other thing I was thinking is they're like harvest poppies. Yeah. They'd be probably quite dry, and if they're dry, they'd make quite a rattling noise. I don't know if it might just be.
Those are all valid points. Very speculative.
Oh yeah, I don't know shit about fuck.
So you put it in some kind of shit about fuck.
Is it Ozark? Yeah. I don't know shit about fuck.
You put it in like a shamanic ritual into this, aren't you? Like you
yeah,
say,
the shaking of the beads and
yeah.
Absolutely. There's definitely room there.
Yeah, I heard they were also good at beatboxing, and some of them could actually freestyle.
I bet. Yeah. I'm sure some of these are breakdancing.
They're doing some kind of a boogie. They're walking like an Egyptian. Right, so all this stuff we've been talking about is kind of alluded to in Carl Jung's famously most difficult book, Aeon. Another place that you'll find all this stuff, especially the shamanistic part, enlightenment part, you'll find it in The Secret of the Golden Flower, famous Chinese text written probably by Manichaeans.
Oh, so that's like a Christian sect, wasn't it? Manichaeans?
That have gone towards Taoism. There's this binding. So he wrote the foreword to that as well. So he kept, just as I got to the end of understanding the work, once again the universe went, here, read this. Because, although I've read lots of other texts and been on the trail stuff, you can't know everything, and sometimes things just do come in at the right time, don't they?
Holy shit, so Carl Jung wrote the foreword to The Secret of the Golden Flower?
Yes.
And who wrote that?
I mean,
the Manichaeans?
It's like a 14th century text, or 18, I can't remember, 1700s, I think it is,
Wow.
Secret of the Golden Flower.
Right, okay.
So he's not that old, but he wrote the foreword to the translation.
Nice.
Right, so one of Jung's texts, it's not very important to know this, but he did a series of images, kind of. He was regurgitating his soul after a very personal breakdown that he had, that he investigated while it was happening. And in some of these fantasies that he had was a character called Paimon, this biblical character. And you can see him represented there in the top right, looking very much like
Saruman.
Come on, what, if you just squint your eyes, what is that?
It's like an eagle.
It's a fucking mushroom, man.
Oh, right, yeah, it's got the gills and everything, hasn't it?
Trained you
come on,
guys
the answer's
by
always
now.
a mushroom.
Everything's a mushroom. So, I mean, that is quite blatantly a mushroom, but then we'll see there's lots of other things going on in that image that show me that this pattern that I found is much more widespread than I come to believe.
Yeah, I suppose it's got those gills, hasn't it? The mushroom gills. And
the fact it's red and it's psychedelic and it's to do with a mystic, there are many signs.
Is he standing on top of a pillar again?
He's on top of a beehive, which is another.
Beehive.
Most honey in the past was psychedelic.
Well, that's another Freemasonic symbol, the beehive.
Yeah, and if you see in the way the Freemasons draw it, they're getting Liberty Cat mushrooms because it's the same shape with a little nipple on top.
Is there any psychedelic honey nowadays?
Yeah. Watch lots of video. There's lots of Vice videos and things like that on it. Yeah. Lots of places. Not so much in the West anymore. Like Greek honey back in the day was like rhododendron honey, and you would get off your mind off that. That's why the thing about mead, it wasn't just the alcoholic content; it was all the other stuff that the bees are bringing back from various.
Is it the Euclidean rituals?
The Euclidean rituals.
The
Eleusinian. Oh, fuck it.
Eleusinian.
I was like, I've never heard of these.
Fuck, they sound good though.
Oh yeah.
Euclidean mysteries.
Isn't that just spirograph?
Oh, you know it.
No, you're right. You're right. The Eleusinian. So that was based in Eleusis.
Yes.
And this was another one of these secret ceremonies where you be initiated, and you can't reveal what happens when you go in there by pain of death. Was it to Apollo? The Eleusinian mysteries? I think Apollo was
it not Dionysus?
It might have been Dionysus.
Probably Dionysus. If it's drugs and stuff, it's probably Dionysus. I can't quite remember.
The god of partying.
Yeah, I do remember that the thing itself was called the kykeon, the thing that he drank.
Yeah.
And if you look at the recipe for it, it spells mushroom.
I'm remembering the Immortality Key now by Brian.
It's been a long time since I've read
Marescu.
Yeah, he was very much focused on the Eleusinian mysteries and
not the Euclidean mysteries.
Euclidean mysteries. We need to start. I think we should start our own.
Yeah, let's get it on.
Let's start our own mystery school.
Definitely. We need 9 spirographs.
They'll just cancel each other out and then multiply mystically. It'd be like a Ouija board. I don't know how that'll work, but we'll
can do it. We'll do something. Circles.
We'll do something. In a stone
circles
circle.
within circles. Right, so Carl Jung was this dude, and he found stuff out. Next slide, please.
Oh, have we gone back to the beginning?
Oh, I hope it's not done that.
we're at the end of the
last. Yes, we do need to go to the.
We need to go
to the next
to
section.
the next batch.
We're making headway.
Smashing it.
Hello.
We're on here now. We're
Goodbye.
3. We're doing well.
Is this right? Does this look right?
This is good stuff. This now you'll like this. Right, so this is down to a guy called Frank Higgins who wrote this wicked book back in either the late 1800s. I think it was the early 20th century, and he exposed a lot of these things, but on a lot of the geometry stuff. I'll try and get you a copy. Actually, I'll get you a PDF. It's they're really easy to read if you know your stuff already. It's just absolutely fascinating. There's nothing hard technical in there, but you just got to be able to link a lot of things together like this. So VW, the VW sign. Am I shouting on my 2 point?
No, it's fine. The VW sign.
The VW sign. We've seen this on these 3 pillars at Rivington. One has a wheel on it, and at 12 o'clock on the wheel, there's what looked like a W. But when I look closer, it was a V and a W. I've highlighted it in the top corner. Now, this VW symbol, I kept seeing in other places, and it is symbolic in a Christian sense. It's pre-Christian, but the Christians took it over and called it the Virgin Magisterium or something like that. I forget right now because I've had a glass of wine.
Yeah.
But it's this majestic Virgin, like the Virgin Mary, VM, VW, and they do a lot of this flipping around stuff. The symbol 3 across from the left on the top, this MA symbol, is a Christian rejigging of that same symbol.
Wow.
Now, if you take the 2 pillars off the side, that's the symbol of Saturn. It is literally, from all the old magic textbooks, that is the symbol of Saturn.
So like an M and then a W above it.
Well, it's just that if there were 2 pillars at either side.
Yeah.
Well, if you can just ignore all this stuff and just look on the symbol to your right that says Azazel on it, and that is the symbol of Saturn.
Oh, right. Oh gosh,
yeah,
right. So you've got it looks like an M, and then above that a horizontal line, and then a W above that, basically.
And I think that's from Agrippa's
Cornelius
Agrippa's
got that down
magic,
there as well.
Yeah.
Not got around to it yet, but
not got around to summoning any demons up.
I don't want to mess with that stuff, to be honest.
It's nonsense. It's a nonsense. It's all psychology, from what I can tell. But I haven't messed too much myself. Why would I want to? I'm not interested in that. Yeah, what's the point?
I'll have a go.
Oh yeah, do it.
If you want to join the Euclidean mysteries,
Absolutely.
some demon.
It's ritual 1. Skip to the end.
So beneath that is the M symbol for Virgo, and all these symbols are kind of coalescing together, and we can see there's a PX there as well, the Cairo symbol, and then we can see a Saturnian cube. We've talked about the Kabbah and other Saturnian things, and that's just the PX on these directions of space and time and all these other things. So that's all bound together in this symbol for the Great Mother, because another version of Saturn is the Great Mother. Saturn's kind of like being a limit to things. Imagine your own skin. That's the limit to you, isn't it? You go any further and it's something else. So that's your personal space and time. It's your personal limiting factors, and that's Saturn. That's the archetype of Saturn. So the Great Mother is the same thing. She is the limiting factor that allows energy to be poured into it. She's the matrix. Think of a computer that's not been turned on yet. It doesn't do anything, but there's a matrix there that when the energy comes in, the masculine energy comes in, it can be captured.
Potential.
And suddenly you have potential difference in there, because there's some parts activated and some parts not activated. And just like we said before with weather systems, you get high pressure, low pressure, and this in physics is called work. This allows work to be done, and which is the basis of all action, all movement, and action and movement. The basis of that is time. These quantum fluctuations into the vacuum, out of the vacuum, you know. That's the basis of time. This
time is just
factor.
the measurement of that.
And are you aware of the Planck constant? Do you know what the symbol for the Planck constant is?
No.
See that symbol for Saturn there? You know so let's go top right corner. You got your cube, you got your px, and then there's like a T with a little generally, but that's the symbol for Saturn and Planck's constant, because they knew this stuff too. Right. So the limiting factor of the vacuum, you know, literally the 0 point vacuum is Saturn. They knew, you know, because these guys know they're still using the same stuff. When I say names like Da Vinci, Newton, probably Einstein, there's so many of the luminaries of our society, Plato, Pythagoras, right the way back, you know, Imhotep. These guys were doing this stuff.
I'm reading a book at the minute called The Invisible College by Freemasonic author Robert Lomas.
I've heard of it.
And he's talking about the founding of the Royal Society. Christopher Wren and Robert Moray and Boyle.
Christopher Wren wanted to rebuild London after the fire to all this geometry.
Absolutely, yeah. And they did that with Washington.
You know so much. You're like Joe Rogan, you. Only tall.
Smooth brain.
No, like pretends to know nothing, but actually knows loads. I'm just a dummy.
No, but all these famous luminaries. Luminaries is a great word.
I like that. I pulled it out of the ether, that one.
Yeah, these luminaries through time. They had an understanding. A lot of them were interested in alchemy, esoteric subjects. Isaac Newton's a famous one.
Yeah.
You know, he spent a lot of his time looking into alchemy, squaring the circle,
and not having sex.
Well,
yes, he was absolutely. He was a bit like, not, you call it a germaphobe now, but he was that way. And I mean, he was famously possibly a bit of a
musician.
A musician, very good at music, and very happy. He had a bit of a lover boy there, but apparently they never did anything, possibly because of Christian values at the time. But you get that feeling if he's into all this stuff, he's not doing it either. Nikola Tesla, another one that never did, an actual germaphobe, doing all the same stuff. And he famously got to the point where often he couldn't tell the difference between what he was thinking and actual reality. He'd have engines in front of his in front of his vision, and be taking them apart and putting them back together, and then like forget that nobody else could see these things.
That's ace.
Because he'd use these same techniques. You know?
He's working on a different plane of fucking reality.
You know, I think that's where you can get to if you are driven enough to get to that stage. I know I'll never get. I'd like to think I could get that far, but you drive yourself up the wall. Like life's for living too.
Yeah.
So we got this WM all the time. This symbol. What's it getting at? So before we actually arrive at a conclusion, let's go to that middle layer, the Egyptian thing in brown on the left. We can see that M symbol.
Yeah.
So it goes quite back quite far. Then on the next image in, there's like an M with a line underneath it, and that actually comes from the the G string of the Maui guys. What are they called? The Moai, sorry, on Easter Island.
Right.
And that's the string that pulls his little panties there up his bum.
Wow.
So there's that M there. So it's at the bottom of his spine, just as...
Yes, can see it in the next slide here, in the next picture.
On this lady here, it looks like, with the M, the Egyptian one, it kind of looks like a spine with an M on the top, if you get me, next to the lady's spine. And then that's drawing up his spine. And then I just remind you that the guys on Easter Island actually had hats on.
Yeah.
That were big red mushrooms turned upside down. Okay, that's speculative, but, you know, it wouldn't surprise me. On the next pillar, on the next image over, we've actually got a coloured in image from the pillars, which has got this same, another one that's got this same M kind of thing. It's got an A in there as well, but it's definitely the same shape, and we're getting at the same thing. Now, in the next image over, we got a measurement here. This is so cool. So it's difficult to see, but over I believe it's the VW. Yeah, that one there. So over where the VW is, I placed this special triangle called the Jehovah Triangle. Jehovah Trapezium, excuse me.
Right.
Which is made up of essentially 2 Pythagorean triangles and then 2 other triangles, which we'll get into. Now, the name of God in Hebrew is JHVH, which we've said in previous episodes. Hebrew didn't have numbers as different
vowels.
numerals. They had so they used the actual letters as placeholders for numbers. So JHVH is equal to 10, 5, 6, 5. That trapezium has a base of 10, 2 sides of 5. If we look in this bottom row in the center image, you can see a few numbers around there. 10 on the bottom, 5 at the sides, and 6 at the top. Okay.
Fucking hell.
Okay. Now
it's the God trapezium.
God trapezium, and then so that's in these M's. That's what they're getting at, and it's very much they're getting at the hips as well. We've had this pregnant lady, the hips of the Moai. You know, there's other things going on other places, but you can see in the top VW, you can imagine that's a set of hips, you know, the skeletal hips and the sacrum. So this is the if you know anything about Kundalini and all this other stuff, it's the base of the hips and the sacrum. If you look to Eliphas Levi's drawing of the Wheel of Fortune, which is all over these pillars, in the top right-hand corner there, you can see 2 serpents coming out of a hip shape going up a stick.
Absolutely, yeah.
Right, so we're getting at the hips, but we're also getting at something else here. Now we're going back to procession. If you look in the right-hand corner, you'll see that actually the slopes of the side of that trapezium are at 23.5 degrees.
So the angle of...
So that's what they're getting at. So the center of the... If you can see, the trapezium's been extended into a triangle. The center of it says the pole star. And then you got the Earth and you got all these angles. And I'll tell you as well, if you take the sides... It's difficult to explain this. So if you imagine the 2 equilateral triangles at the base of that trapezium.
Yes.
And then there's a third one pointing down, isn't there?
Yep.
So if you just went to the top of those 2 equilateral triangles, drew a straight line down, halving them.
Yeah.
Yeah. Those the remaining triangles inside would all be 3, 4, 5 triangles, and it's all 3, 4, 5s with these 2 extra little triangles on the outside. Now, here's what's bloody cool about this, because I've said, okay, 1300s, and we got evidence of it on these M shapes all across the world. That's amazing as well. All across the world. Next slide, please.
Right. So we've got Sumerian, top left.
Mm-hmm. These are all like at the gates of like places in Iran, basically. Babylon,
Sumeria. Mm-hmm. Don't know what the bottom.
The bottom right is actually from the guy that originally spotted this stuff, Frank Higgins.
All right, so Babylonian symbol of Jehovah.
I can't read it. I'm myopic.
The lion, the eagle, the bull, and the man.
And
so
the
that's the Sphinx. That's the Sphinx.
Exactly.
Man.
And we started here with the lion, the bull, the eagle, and the man. These degrees, I think what I'm getting at with all this stuff is that, I mean, you guys have been here for every episode so far, and how many times have these same things been provably repeated with geometric precision? And, it can sound like I'm going, oh, mushrooms and stuff. How many times have you seen mushrooms in skirts and things on these same characters? How many times have we seen this angle in things? It's just over and over and over again. I think just the quantities is proof enough without the actual voices of the past telling us these occulted esoteric secrets that they're never going to write down.
I mean, these animals, if you take away the drawings you've overlaid that show the angles, if you just look at the image as itself, it looks almost unnatural.
Yeah.
Which indicates to me that that's why these animals were drawn in this position.
In this manner.
It's not meant to look natural. It's meant to tell you that these angles are significant.
That these beasts are significant, and everything they were doing was as above, so below. They were imitating the stars.
And then the top left guy is the Sphinx. We've got all the components of the lion, the eagle, the bull, and the man incorporated in that image, I think.
Yeah, yeah, totally have.
Wow.
It's over and over again. There's mythical creature there in the center that's similar, perhaps the same thing.
Top or centre
Sorry,
bottom?
centre bottom, my fault.
What does that look like?
Yeah, it's like a weird giraffe serpent.
Anteater thing.
Yeah.
I don't know what that is.
Mongrel.
I don't know.
So no explanation. Does no one know what it's supposed to represent?
They've got names. I can't remember what they're all called. Right. That's a griffin in the top right-hand corner.
Right. So griffin, very similar to the Sphinx, really.
Yeah.
You know, lion, eagle. It's just I thought griffin was a lion and an eagle, but maybe
it's got horns as well, isn't it? I think that one has horns. Yeah,
that one has horns. So the bull's there. It's probably got a man's ego.
Yeah, a man's ego between its legs. But that's amazing, isn't it? Mm. That something that you never knew about is on these pillars and relates to the past. You know, there's this mystery thing. There's a clear, not an unbroken line necessarily, but there's a clear line of this knowledge going all the way back, and it's everywhere if you just know how to look for it.
Super. Yeah, I like that.
Mm.
I like these angles.
Yeah.
I like the angle of the dangle.
Mm. Cool. Next slide, please.
Oh, gosh.
Oh, mate. Right. So, okay. This is why we'll try not to keep it too complicated for too long, but this is so effing cool. This was, God, I don't even know how I worked it out. It was just like, it was like a eureka moment. I think I was in the bath, actually. So, whatever. I'll tell you what. We can finish off what we're talking about a moment before in this clusterfuck of images. If we go to the bottom right, we'll see two swastika-looking images, and if you go one up, we can see that same triangle, that same trapezium, and all the angles and all the other various things around it. Just as proof, there's two Pythagorean triangles in the center, and these two extra little triangles on the outside. Mm-hmm. That triangle is that angle. Blah blah blah. There you go. Right. Now here's the cool thing. For a long time, I'd understood that the basic fundamental building block of all this stuff, the basic pixel, was the 3-4-5 Pythagorean triangle. It's famously used to draw many shapes. It's famously in the body. It's famously a Masonic symbol. We can see that Masonic symbol in the top right. And they call it Euclid's 47th problem, I think it is for them. Mm-hmm. If it is his 47th. Yeah, I think it is. So that's what they call it. So there's a little gold-looking thing in the top right there. Next to it is an Egyptian version. And they called those four... there's three squares around the outside of this triangle.
Yes.
And that's to prove that A squared plus B squared equals C squared.
Yes.
Those are the squares mapped out. And you find if you count all the measurements that the shorter line, so there are three lines. They're red, white, and blue, let's say. The red is 3, the blue is 4, and then the 5 is this mystery thing that you can work out by adding the 3 and the 4 together, the square of the 3 and the 4 together. In Egypt, the 3 was Osiris, the 4 was Isis, and then they got married and had the son. Horus. And this is what it was called. This is famously one of their mysteries.
Right.
Now, we've talked about these numbers, 72, 216, 432, 5040, all these numbers. And when you start comparing them to each other, you start to realize that there are two sets of numbers. One contains the 432s, etc. And then you get this 144. And all these other numbers. So just something in my head went, one's male and it's like one's male and one's female. Can you see it now?
I'm seeing it now.
Let's not jump to it. So I'd realised that because all these 9s are involved, for the male, all these numbers, all the male numbers as I saw them, plugged in to that shorter side, to the red side in the right-hand corner.
Yeah.
All the female numbers plugged into the female side, and then you just, it's so harmonic and beautiful. So we get these numbers that are looking a mess there. So here we go. Here's how I worked it out, right? On the pillars, it says IHS, as in Jesus, Jesus. And that was at one side of Jesus' hand. He's on the cross. If you look in the top left-hand corner there, you can see IHS. On his left hand was IHS. On the right hand was a serpent. But and you can see the serpent in green there. And the more I looked at this serpent, I'm like, it says UHS. Can you see that?
Yeah.
So in gematria, which is transposing letters to numbers, IHS is equal to 216. UHS was equal to 288. I had my male and my female numbers. Now, if we look in the central column where we've got red and blue numbers and then a white number next to it, we can see there's a column that says 216.
In red, yeah.
And then 288 in blue. And then you get 360. Well, if you plug those numbers into the Pythagorean triangle, 216 on the masculine side, 288 on the other side, you get 360 on the sun side, on the Horus side.
Yeah.
And then all these numbers, I mean, you can look at that to your heart's content, but what ends up happening is through the area and the perimeter and what's called the H, which is annoying, I'll not go into it, but the hypotenuse.
Hypotenuse, yeah.
You get all these numbers. They're even announcing that 216 will be ahead. So if you look on that first column, 486, 108, 216, and then you'll see so many down, you get 216, and then it's the same amount next when that number will announce that it's coming up again. If you get me, there's a pattern with all these things. So that, I was just like, oh, God.
Yeah, 86.4, skip 1, 864. And then we get announced 172.8, skip 2, 1728. It's the harmony.
It's the literal harmony.
And what's great about all these numbers, let's take 1728. 1728, let's add them up. 8 plus 2, 1 plus 7 plus 2 plus 8 is 18. 1 plus 8 equals 9. Let's take another one. 3, 4, 5, 6. 3 plus 4 is 7. 7 plus 5 is 12. 12 plus 6 is 18. 1 plus 8 equals 9. And this multiplier of 9, I've tested this. This works to 7 decimal places. Like if you times 9 by 13,476,371.67371.
2.
Times that by 9, and your result, take all those numbers, add them together, it'll be divisible by 9.
Yeah.
I've tested it to the point where the calculator doesn't work
anymore.
What if you so you start with 3 or 4 by 9 at the top, right? What if you did 3 or 4 times?
Where
7?
am I? Sorry. What were you pointing me to? Sorry.
Middle, just where you're getting your numbers.
Yeah.
At the start.
Here.
So you're starting is.
Yeah. Oh, so right. So what it is so here's the fundamentals of it. So 3 times 9 is 27.
Yeah. 4 times 9.
And then you're doubling it every time. 27, 54, 108. Do you get me? So it's a doubling of 4 times, because it's a 3, 4, 5 triangle.
Yeah.
So one side's got 3 times 9s on it, doubled. Yeah. The other side's got 4 times on it and then doubled. And the reason for it is because of all this, not the reason for it, but the reason that they did it was because it's all divisible by so many numbers. It's very complex to go into. Quite simple. You know, if I had half an hour with you, you'd totally get it. But half an hour on here is not necessarily time well spent.
Do you get similar patterns with, like, if you did 7, 3 and 4 times 7, or 3 or 4 times?
It doesn't work
3.
the same. It's because of that 9. Basically,
the 9 is magic.
Yeah.
It's like I've tried this with other, because you think you're seeing things. So you try it, you test it against other things. So you'll do the 7 times tables or the 13 times tables or anything, but there's something special about the number 9, basically.
I think, aren't we like programmed to see patterns as well? So when we get to an actual mathematical pattern, which this is, it's like triggers you.
Yeah, it really triggers you.
It rings a bell.
Yeah. Well, because it's in you. It literally is your structure. So it was resonating is what it's doing.
Look at the numbers. 90 degrees, a right angle. 180.
Mm-hmm.
That's
half a circle.
Yeah. 360 is a circle.
Yeah.
720, it's your TV.
Yeah.
Why is a TV 720? It's because of this.
And
it's not because Samsung decided it's going to be 720 or 2080p.
It's because of those 3, 4, 5 triangles, because you can scale them up so easily.
TVs used to be a 4:3 ratio back before widescreen.
Yeah, 4:3. Yeah. And it was 432 pixels, as it were, across 432.
432.
Yeah. So the Pythagorean right angle triangle is totally encoded in the swastika. If you look in the bottom right hand corner, is there straight away. There's lots of other ways of drawing it that we'll see in a little while. But another thing about this, we've talked many times about this angle, and this angle is the reason all this stuff's encoded. So you can see there's in that black box there, in the grey box, sorry, if you go left a little bit, there's some white writing in the top right hand corner of that box. It says 1440 on it. So yeah, that one. Could you read what it says for me?
What, over here?
Yeah, so what I've done is made a little list of, we've seen all these triangles and they've all got these angles that are pointing at the angle of the axis of the Earth. So what I did was make an actual list, because they're all slightly off, you see. So if you can read that for me, that'd be lovely.
Right, pyramid equals, I think that's 51.5 degrees.
Yeah, so you'd half that and get the angle of the axis.
26.25
is...
Yeah, that's the axis. So pattern equals 51.43 degrees.
Okay, the pattern's this thing that I've discovered that we'll see very soon.
Right. Pythagoras 345 triangle equals 53.13 degrees.
So again, you half that and you get the...
JHV8, so that's the Jehovah triangle. 23.97 degrees.
There you go.
And then the heptagram triangle is 25.6 degrees.
Yeah.
So
a heptagram's a 7-sided shape, which is absolutely coming up.
Right. And again, going back to these sacred numbers, I can't resist this stuff here, because again, it's relating to time. 24 hours in a day, 60 minutes per hour, 1,440. Where is it?
Minutes in a day, there it is.
There we go.
Central column,
there we go. 1,440 minutes per day, 60 seconds in a minute. 3,600 seconds per hour.
260 again.
360.
864 is another one.
886,400 seconds per day.
864 is the size of the Earth in miles.
864.
Yeah.
And, this will carry on. Oh, there we go. 864. It's there for a reason.
It's so funny, really.
And
you get
these
used
work.
to all this.
What's the processional cycle? 25,920. Can we find that anywhere? 2592.
I think we might have skipped over this previously. Did I tell you that? Just go to the next slide for me, just in case I'm gonna say something silly. So I've totally missed something off a previous episode, and this is so interesting. So Jesus has above his head INRI. Ioannis, what is it? Something.
I can't remember.
Jesus Nazarene Rex.
King of the Jews.
Yeah.
Yeah.
What's Jews? Judea. Right? And you're like, it's a bit weird, that, isn't it? And it says in the Bible, this was a crack at this, that I discovered this one. It said it could be read by both the Romans and the Jews. I'm like, well, what does that mean? And then I thought, well, what if I take Hebrew gematria, Hebrew numbers, and transpose them into Latin? So I did. And ladies and gentlemen, I got fuck all out of it. And then I looked at it again, and then I just added the numbers together, and it added up to 25,920.
Right. So, no, go through that process again. So you're taking the INRI.
So taking INRI, which
is Hebrew? Latin?
No, it's Latin.
Latin.
And then it was said in the Bible that it could be read by both the Jews and the Romans. So I've pretended those numbers, with those letters, stroke numbers, were Hebrew instead of being Latin.
Right.
So I can't remember the bloody Hebrew letters after so much.
That's all right. And then you added them up.
I either added them or multiplied them, And it actually came up to 259200 is what it came up to. So I must have multiplied them. But yeah, 259200. You can just ignore those zeros, but that's what it ended up at.
That's wild.
Isn't it?
Yes.
I can happily send you the maths. In fact, it's on a previous slide somewhere.
The other thing that confuses me with gematria is there are different ways of using it.
Yeah.
That I'm aware of.
Yeah.
And I think there's a real danger of reading too much into gematria.
Yes. I don't like to use things for divination systems.
No.
If you're going to tap into that stuff, there's other ways of doing it that are better than just how many letters are in your name and things like that.
Anyway, do we need to go back or forward?
I think we've gone. Just go back just to see where we are. Yeah, we've been
just on this one.
We've done that.
So we'll go forward. Yes. Let's skip this one.
That's fine. So I'm just showing. No, go on. You horrible person. So there's our Sator square in a 5x5, and as you'd pointed out in a previous episode, if we look at the arms of that swastika, it says Satan and Rotas, which is kind of getting at Satan is Saturn, Rotas is the wheels, the wheels of Saturn. And if you connect that outside line, so let's say bottom left-hand corner of that square, if we connect that bottom left-hand corner up to the center of the N, in the very center of the square, that would make a 3-4-5 triangle. Not only that, there are two other ways of doing it here. One of them is how the fish is on one of these pillars. So that the fish there is from the pillar. So that's one way of doing it, and you get a 3-4-5 triangle out of it by drawing two curves, two arcs with a compass.
An arc, like sacred geometry, Masonic type of method.
Yeah, and you can see these. That's a 3-4-5 because it's got 3 there, 4 there, and you just imply the 5 from it. And again, in the centre there. So, and somebody very kindly drew me a few clues about where to draw that because they've drawn these lines on the outside with holes on them. So they help,
so that's like a reference. Yeah. They've like given you a reference point on the pillar.
I would also like to say, however, I'm not revealing it here, is the one thing I've saved for my book, that in the same way that I translated those Hebrew letters into Jewish, Hebrew letters into Latin, you do the same for the letters on the Sator square. So you treat some of them as if they're Hebrew, some of them as if they're Latin. I'm not going to go into it too much detail, but then you get all these numbers again.
Wow. Do you know you've drawn a 90-degree arc and a 180-degree arc on that fish?
Oh, cool, yeah, cool.
I
didn't really think about it like that, but yeah.
So have you put your compass point here?
Yeah.
In the corner, and then cast an arc this way.
Yeah, that's 180, and then there's
a
bigger 90 degree. It
we've
wouldn't
got
work with another. You wouldn't get that triangle with a different.
They have to be 180 and 90. You can see if you sort of step back, you can see
the fish. Yeah.
You can see the semicircle there at the top, can't you? And then a 90-degree curve.
180 is 9. 90 is 9.
Yeah.
And 180 plus 90 is 270, which is 9.
Excellent.
Cool. There you go.
Move on.
And here's some very old versions, and we've even got that the Tauro PX thing going on there, and it's just all these things, next to each other.
And is that another Sator square there?
That's the same one. That's the same one as we just saw in the last image. Yeah, these are just all in context next to each other. Right. So we got this cross of the earth, and we got the cross of the sky there, with the two little W tails at the bottom, showing you that it's on the unconscious and the super conscious, and all these things that we've talked about for 8 hours so far. And there you go. It's all coming together now.
Nice.
It's these somehow the keys to time unlock something fundamental about the universe, and we've talked about it over these last few episodes. Sorry if you'd like to go. Oh, look, have you got anything you want to talk about there?
No, it's fine.
It's Phil's favourite page. So I've nicked these off people. I've barely read them myself, but we can see there's 100. If top left there's 108 moons between us and the Earth, 1080. There's 108 suns between us and the sun, 1080. There's 108. Is it Earths inside the sun? Just these things all.
Yeah, the diameter of the sun is 108 times the diameter of the Earth.
The actual diameter of the moon in miles is 2160.
216. Yeah. Half of 432.
The actual
middle A.
miles of the Earth is 836 or whatever I'd said before. One of these numbers. I can't quite remember.
864.
864. I was only one number off.
Yeah.
Hey, yeah, 864.
And then we've got the lunar radius, 1080 miles, 108. What's that? 108 million?
Where am I looking?
I'm looking at the moon in the bottom left. Is that in feet?
Well, that's the equatorial diameter, and it's 108 with lots of noughts after it.
Yeah. The point is, it's the same number again.
Yeah. In nautical miles, the size of the Earth is 2160.
216. Yeah.
And it's just absolutely all over everywhere, especially cosmically. And as we'll see,
what really gets my juices going is that these units of measurements. So 108. What is it? 108 fucking rabbits. 108.
Yeah.
No, these
arbitrary units.
These arbitrary units are related to our flesh and bone.
Mm-hmm.
A mile is 1,000 paces. It's related to us human beings.
So
it's not 1,000 horse gallops.
No, it's not. Man is the measure of all things,
Absolutely.
and he might be the reason why. If you scale the universe up to its largest point, the biggest thing that we've seen, and you scale it down to the smallest point, we're right in the middle. Weirdly.
Explain that. I don't understand.
So if you went infinitesimally small into the microcosm.
Quarks and gluons.
Yeah. And then you went up to the largest objects like the universe itself. We are slap bang in the middle.
How did they know
in
that?
Scale. As far as they know.
We're in the middle of the universe.
They know.
Are you telling me I'm the center of the universe?
You are the thing amongst which all things revolve around.
Wow.
My favourite thing on this whole slide is the 540 doors of Valhalla.
What's that? These aren't mine, by the way. Just pinch them off the internet.
We've got Ragnarok here. So 800 divine warriors times 540. Oh, the doors of Valhalla, 432,000.
Yeah.
432.
Yeah.
Yeah, 43,200 seconds in 12 hours. 432 dimples on a golf ball.
In
we
the
can get
Bible.
that checked.
Not one, not more, not less. 432 dimples on a golf ball. 432,000 years in a Kali Yuga.
Mm-hmm.
So that's the sort of end times, isn't it?
Yeah, that's we'd call it like the. I think the Kali Yuga is like the Iron Age to them. It's like horrible. They don't literally mean like our Iron Age where people were using iron. They symbolize things. There's a golden age, a silver age, a bronze age. And, you might call it the lead age. It's just the rubbish one, basically. Like, can't wait to get out of this.
Now, these are new to me. We've got Mars and Jupiter here. So Mars, 4,320 mile diameter, accurate to 97.5 degrees, because obviously we can't really measure it accurately.
Mm-hmm.
And then we've got Jupiter, 43,200 miles radius. That's strange.
Wow. I can't wait to show you this pattern.
4,320 day orbital period for Jupiter. That's Earth days. 4,320 Earth days in an orbit of Jupiter. Is that real?
Yeah. So it's a long year.
I just want to go and double check all these numbers.
Please go and double check them all.
These are new, these ones for Jupiter and Mars, but that's fascinating.
The next stage of my work is going to be comparing the pattern that I've discovered to the orbits, the sizes. I've already kind of compared the sizes to this pattern that I'm going to show you, and it does figure out. And the other thing I would like to say for anybody who's actually a serious scientist out there, something that I found out, and then I found another guy who was actually really high up in the American Navy had found out the same thing from observation. And that is, instead of using Earth as we were talking about units of measurement before, instead of using Earth as an astronomical unit between the Earth and the Sun, that's one AU, use between the Sun and Mercury, and then see what happens. I'm not going to divulge it now, but just have a look what happens then. And it is literally like You can't see this on the podcast, but my face just changed remarkably, like a combination of amazement and disgust. Like I just found a golden poo that stunk.
And we've also got, I've just noticed Saturn here. So 10,800 days for Saturn to orbit the Earth. 1080.
So far
again. Yeah, but yeah. And is that diameter? Polar diameter of Saturn 108,000. Ooh, now that's kilometers. So I'm not happy about that. That's kilometers.
Well,
miles.
Kilometers based on the meter. The meter is actually in the pyramids, so there's something about the meter. It certainly wasn't discovered by the French.
Yeah, they claim it though, don't they?
They like to.
Yeah. Right, I love that. That's one of my favourite slides so far.
And you're taking over this episode nicely, like a new.
Should we move on?
Yeah.
Oh my God, yes.
Okay, no.
Platonic.
These are all nicks from your hero.
Platonic solids, anyone?
Yeah. So the Platonic solids, according to Plato, one of the founding fathers of the West, there were these very simple shapes, 3D shapes, and they all share a common thing in that all the corners, if you were to put them in a sphere, all of the corners would touch the sphere itself. Right. And there are very few shapes that actually do this. There are 5 altogether, named after the 5 elements. There's a fire, a water, an air, and an earth, and an ether, or the 5th element, as it would have been known.
5th element, yeah.
All of these shapes have angles in them, as all shapes do. And when you add the angles together, we get processional numbers. So you get the tetrahedron at 720 degrees.
Fire.
You get the octahedron, which adds up to 1440 degrees.
Air.
You got the cube, which is 2160.
Earth.
I will remind you that Earth and Saturn are these limiting factors, and the cube is Saturn's, and 2160, processional month.
Absolutely.
And yeah. I think the last one, is it an octahedron? Icosahedron, sorry. I can't read very well. Right. And that is symbolized by
water. 3,600.
So Captain Planet.
Essentially, yeah. So basically, if we take, let's start with the easy one, the tetrahedron. If we add all these angles up, that's where the 720 is derived from. If we add all these external angles that touch this imaginary sphere that is encompassing it, it adds to 720, and we get these numbers repeating again. It's amazing.
And so those are the only shapes that do that miraculous thing. And
squaring the circle, you might say.
These are the shapes of the universe. From the icosahedron there is the shape of viruses. Many viruses are that shape. Wow. These are just the basics of life. They are as the amino acids are fundamental to building you. These shapes are fundamental to building things like DNA and all kinds of things. The way tetrahedrons fit together builds helixes, and right. It's absolutely the basis of everything from atoms to, it's been proved by Kepler to some extent that if you nested all these shapes, these actual shapes within each other in a certain order, you get the orbits of the planets.
Wow, that's incredible. Oh, I love this. I love what's going on in this slide. Oh, we've got the speed of light here. What's this?
It's the square root of 432, or is it something like that?
The speed of light is at 186,282 miles per second, which is 216 times 864. The sun times the moon, basically. You take the diameter of the sun in million miles, I guess it would be, and the diameter of the moon in million miles, times them together, you get the speed of light. And give or take. Rounding errors.
Yeah, over and over again, this stuff just... Yeah, there's a little give and take, but that's the nature of reality, isn't it?
Nothing's perfect.
Plato's idea was that there were these high Platonic forms, these perfect things. If I said to you a tree, there's a perfect tree. There's the idea of a perfect tree in your head somewhere. Right. And every other tree is an analogy to this perfect tree that you got in your head that could never exist. We know outside Euclidean geometry in actual space, you can't have a straight line. Gravity bends it. But in this perfect world, we've got these perfect shapes. And this is Plato's idealized forms.
Same with the circle. There's no such thing as a perfect circle.
No.
You're limited by what you can measure. There'll always be a room for error.
And that dives down to the Heisenberg uncertainty principle in quantum mechanics, etc.
Yeah.
So, is there anything else you like? I'd just leave out that bottom right on one because that's going to go into the pattern. We can see there the size of the sun, the earth, and the moon.
It's really small. I think that might be 3768. I can't read it. It's too small.
It's my own fault for just I did all these slides within like a week, most of them, and it was just like, by then I'm getting fatigued.
I mean, it's just reiterating that there's a pattern there that needs looking out for, isn't it? Really,
absolutely.
And what have we got here? Ooh.
So we've got a few more. There's a list there of the actual astral cycles as known by the ancients, and we can see, it's just, as Phil just said, it's just repeating the same things over and over again, and this is just more proof of that stuff. 432 also fits into the Vesica Pisces, and it's the amount of degrees in there, and miles and meters, and whatever measurement you're taking it off because of the geometry of the shape, it ends up at 432. Also within that shape you get right-angled Pythagorean triangles. If we were to take that central line within that Vesica Piscis and draw a line to the top, like make a diamond out of it and draw a line down it, you'd have 432 triangles. 345 triangles. I'm sorry.
3, 4, 5,
Can anybody read purple on dark grey backgrounds?
Yeah. I'll have a go. So speed of the light in the vacuum is 300,000 kilometers per second. Then the light in solar day measures 25920 million kilometers.
So I tell you what, let me get close to this one because obviously I've written it in Hindi and then translated it.
Speed of the Earth.
Speed of light in the vacuum is 3,000 kilometers per second, and the light in the solar day. Then there's your important word. Then the light in a solar day measures. Right. So the light in one solar day goes that far. That's what it's saying. The measurement of light in a day is 25,920 kilometers, 1,000 kilometers.
What do you mean, the measurement of light?
How far it goes.
Oh, how far it travels?
Yeah.
Oh, right. Gosh,
In a
so
solar
if you
day.
take the speed of light, how far does your light travel per day? It happens to travel 25,920 million kilometers.
Yes.
Fuck off.
Fuck off. You invited me here.
Never. That can't be right.
I don't know. It's just maths. That's God. Whatever that
That's
is.
amazing. Speed of the Earth around the Sun is 30 kilometers per second, and it covers 25,920,000 kilometers per day. Wow. So, speed of the Earth around the Sun. That's how far the Earth travels in a day, in kilometers. It's mental, isn't it?
It's just I can't assimilate all these facts because it's like repetitions of the same thing.
Yeah, you're just being hit in the head.
Yeah, and over again.
A lot of these, I've seen people correlate these sacred numbers to things like your heartbeats and your breaths. And
Is there some of that stuff on there? I'm sure I wrote some of this stuff on
oh, hang on. 25,920 breathings per day.
I think I've actually taken this from somewhere else and just copied it.
I think you're hyperventilating if
Yeah.
surely.
Well, no. They're the right numbers. Not breathings, but breaths.
Right. 86,400 is how many times an adult heart beats in one day. Wow. It's frightening, really. It's quite... It's awe-inspiring.
Yeah, but it's scary how big it is and how awful, if you get me.
Yeah, and 432 is the square root of the speed of light, roughly. Absolutely love it. This is what it just fascinates me, the way these numbers keep propping up.
It's a head shaker, isn't it? Because it just can't. It's so simple
this
but
is
you're just shaking your head. But the thing is that now we actually know what the root of all this is. And for some reason, it's that Pythagorean triangle.
Yeah.
For some reason.
It's like...
sorry, just to get this out. That Pythagorean triangle is in golden ratio. Those two sides are in golden ratio. So there's look,
it's the ratio of creation.
Yeah, I've spent all these episodes being really confident. You get to this point, and it's like it's just this little thing in the speck of dust in on the scrot of God.
It's like I don't know who it was. One of the early Freemasons who was putting forth in the Royal Society. Oh, no, not Freemasons. The Royal Society was saying part of their mission was to explore the 7 liberal sciences.
Mm-hmm.
Rhetoric, arithmetic, philosophy,
geometry,
law. Geometry above all others. He states it right there. These 7 liberal sciences is our mission. But geometry is number 1. It's above all.
Let he who be ignorant of geometry not enter here, said above Plato's academy.
Yeah.
I mean, I think the ancients, I'd assumed, possibly wrongly, that the ancients saw number as being primary and then geometry as secondary. I think they saw geometry as being primary and number springing up from geometry, rather than the other way around.
I've had this same quandary because I remember I used to think that, well, you can't understand the geometry without the arithmetic. If you take the numbers away from the geometry, you can't make sense of them. But that I've come to realize that I think that's incorrect, because the geometry is more about ratio and relationship and harmony. And in some ways, the numbers are immaterial. The numbers, you can put whatever numbers you want into the system. It's the system. The ratio, the harmony that is important.
Yeah, it's like the between the lines, isn't it? That's exactly what it is. It's suggesting things in the gap between.
Yeah,
it is.
Cool.
It's like it's in the vacuum. Like that 9 behaves like that. Such a mystery. Like I said, I've done all these episodes and been so confident about what I've been saying, and you get to this point, and then it gets so cosmic, beautiful, and scary at the same time. Because this is peeling back a layer of reality that you might not be ready for in this left brain world that we live in, where everything's kind of dead and quantifiable.
Exactly. How are we doing? Do we need to... I don't even know time.
Should we move on?
Should we go on?
How long have we done?
Slide. Oh.
So, on the pillars... we've got this Wheel of Fortune, as we said, that we can see overlaid with a red shape. Unfortunately, I've not put a better picture on here, but you can go back 3 episodes and look at those. Basically, there was a big Wheel of Fortune, as it's known, and on this wheel are several spokes. On the inside, there's 7 spokes. On the outside, there are 14 spokes. Now, when you divide up 7 spokes and do all the geometry there, you end up with the pyramid, as you can see on the top right-hand side. What I've done now is taken, it's called a heptagram. I'll call it a septagram also.
Yeah.
And if you do, as you would with a pentagram, kind of collapse all the lines in and join them up, join up all the points, you get 2 different kinds of heptagram. You get an obtuse, a thin one and a fat one, basically. And when you stick them together, you get the pyramid. Not only, as we'll see, do you get the pyramid, you get all the measurements of all the lines of all the angles inside there, bar two. So, as you can imagine, a 14-sided shape is essentially the same as a 7-sided shape. It's just doubled. Yeah? So, we can see, if we look at the very center image on the bottom row, we can see this angle that's been made by this septagram shape, and when you make it into 14 instead of 7, you're doubling it up. You get literally all the angles of all the shafts and everything in the pyramid. It's hard to see because it lines up so well, but apart from the 2 shafts towards the top of the pyramid, one points at Sirius, the other one points at Orion.
Orion, yeah.
Those are two specific places, so they're at the specific angles for those stars. Everything else in there is absolutely in accordance with this pattern, and we'll see further later on. Now, I discovered this pattern quite a year before I even discovered these pillars, and it was much to my glee that this pattern was in the pillars, because I'd already realised that this pattern was my personal big discovery. We can see again that same shape isn't on the pillars, because the first pillar we looked at with all the gobbledygook on it actually has the shape on there is exactly the same shape as the pyramids on these pillars in Bolton. So as we move on, unless you've got anything to say about that.
It's a lot.
There's a lot to take in, isn't there?
Why do you think the Sirius and the Orion shaft? What would be an explanation for them not matching up?
Well, just the fact that it's going to specific points that aren't necessarily anything to do with it. I'm not convinced about the Sirius Orion thing personally.
No.
I've not looked into it mega, but I had questions. But you know, Sirius is the female, Orion's Sirius is Isis, and Orion is Osiris, as we've proved previously in this series. But again, it's this 7-sided shape, and that's because the angles of the pyramid are 54 and a bit degrees, and then you halve it, and it's the same as the pole star.
Now then, Ryan.
Now then.
The orientation of those two shafts will be contingent on where the pyramid was built and when the pyramid was built.
Yes.
And if you move forward or back in time, millennia, those shafts would have to be in different places. They're variables.
Yes.
Whereas the other lines are constants.
So what are you suggesting by that?
That's why those two lines don't match up. They're variables.
So that you can, well, they are literally that. Are you saying it's calendrical? That so they could note the building time? Because if that's the case, it's like 10,000. It's at the end of the Younger Dryas, basically. At the end of the Ice Age.
They would line up though at some point.
Well, that's then 10,500 years ago.
Yeah.
12,000 and a bit years ago. At the end of the Ice Age.
I don't know.
I don't know either.
I don't know. But we're assuming that those shafts are for that purpose.
Yes.
For Orion and Isis.
Let's do that. Let's say, as far as we know, that's what they're for.
So that means that they have to be calibrated for a point in time, whereas the other lines are fixed.
Yes.
So that's the variable thing.
Yeah. And so you'd assume that in the mistakes is something appropriate and accurate.
A delay in the project.
Well, maybe there was something there. I could quite believe that it was built at the time of Khufu, or whatever they say, Khafre, because they've found evidence in there that the block's been used with bits of graffiti. It's like that. I would give it. It's very shaky. I wouldn't even give it a percentage. It's very shaky. I could believe either way. Now, what I almost certainly believe is that it doesn't matter when that pyramid was there. There was something there before it. The Sphinx, I would almost certainly say, is there from 10,500 whatever, because that does mark out that time period. This 10,000,
the age of Leo.
Yeah, the age of Leo, which
in the
brings
processional cycle.
Because everything, as we've seen from our pillars onwards, everything starts with Leo, the lion, the bull, the lion, the eagle, and the man. But the Leo is 10,000. The age of Leo is literally 10,500 BC at the time of the end of the Younger Dryas. So it is the gateway, as you always see lions on gateways and at the front of bridges and on thrones and all these other places. You often see a lion holding a ball under its paw.
Right,
in China, etc. And when you look at the ball, it's all this geometry again. So it's just doing this stuff.
Ace. Right, let's go.
Right, so these are all the pillars, and it might be difficult to suss, but everything. Let's take, for example, the front of the horse's head in the top left corner. There's a line that goes up his head. The problem is with this stuff is it matches so well, it's difficult to see sometimes. But as an artist, you can see where all the breaks are. If we take the lion in the center bottom image, you can see to, there's a line underneath his bottom exactly. There's just everything is done in accordance. If you look an image above the line of Jesus's staff that he's holding, there's a line that goes straight down there. Basically, all of these images are drawn to a 7-sided shape, stroke 14-sided because it gets doubled, and there's some maths behind this, basically.
So, I mean, the first thing I think, looking at these, is that you need a reference point to put your pattern over. So, for example, the Sphinxy guy at the bottom, his flat.
Yeah, his flat bottom.
I would use that as a reference point, and then Jesus' staff, a straight line.
Yeah,
that's telling me this is your reference point.
Yeah.
The horse in the top left, I don't know where why you've decided to orientate that pattern over that way.
Well, like you can see, look at the back of his mane. That exactly follows the line that goes. There's a line up the back of his mane.
Yeah.
The line of it where his ears are. There's a line that separates his bottom ear, and then the termination of that ear.
I'm just like, it's hard for me to visualize because you can blow this image up or shrink it down.
Well,
and you can rotate 360 degrees. It's like, to me, you need a reference point to anchor your image to.
Well, what's beautiful about this is, okay, we'll get to it later on, but it's fractal, so it wouldn't matter. It wouldn't matter if I made this half the size, because it's all these harmonic numbers are in that pattern, right? So it doesn't matter what I do with it. It's going to be the same. I'm getting the same outcomes because it's all these harmonic numbers.
Right. Okay, that's fine.
Because the main that triangle there, the main triangle that we saw the pyramid in before, you can see in the top right is the limits of that triangle in that pillar.
Right.
Yeah, that is a 3, 4, 5 triangle. Or near as damn it. There's always a little margin in these things. It's near as damn it a 3, 4, 5 triangle, and that angle and all these other things. Well, if you look at that top right image with the shield and the cross, you can see that the sides of the shield are drawn in, the bottom of the shield's exactly, the top of the shield's got a line on it. It's all hemmed in. Yeah. As an artist myself, when you're drawing more complex things and you want to start off and you're like, I want this to look really cool, you will start off with simple shapes. And we know these guys were stonemasons. So we can see in the bottom left image the place where it's actually really encapsulated, and it's that 7-spoked wheel with the 14 around the outside. What's just out of curiosity, have you got your calculator with you still?
Yeah.
Were you getting it out on purpose then? Did you know what I was going to ask for?
No.
What's 360 times 14, just to find out? Oh, can you do it in your head?
50-40.
50-40. That one Sumerian number, that one that they were all getting at. So, any questions about this? I realise for anybody watching, it's kind of difficult because we're it's complex geometry and there's so many lines on there. And like I said, some of it fits so well that it's difficult to see it because he's literally going over the thing that is already delineated.
Yeah. And they're quite, they'll be quite small on the screen.
Yes, my fault.
Well, that's what it is. But no, I like it. I like it.
So, next image, please. Okay, so this is one of the first places I found it. It's on, I apologise for the complexity of this image, but this is what I'm working with, and I've not necessarily prepared these things for anyone to look at yet. This is a lot of this is my own personal work. So that's Sheila Nagig. Sheila Nagig is this kind of...
Sheila who?
Sheila Nagig. I don't even know what it means.
She Irish?
Yeah.
I thought so. She a friend of Tulatha Danam?
Maybe. I could say, do you know this? Oh, let's not go into that. I'm going to go off on another tangent now. So this lady is opening up her private parts, and was a rude thing often seen on many medieval churches, early medieval churches particularly. I would cite that it's actually coming from the old Celtic Christianity as the Roman Christianity was taken over, and it was one of these last vestiges. I found it because I had slipped my Achilles tendon, was living on an island off Anglesey called Cubby Island, and found all this stuff on the local churches. And this is what helped me to find this stuff. And I'd made my second episode of The Secret Science kind of. I'm getting excited about all this stuff, but I hadn't made the discovery yet. And at the end of the second episode, I put a pyramid and a Vesica Pisces over her vagina there. And you can see there's like a little pyramidic triangle right over her vagina there, yeah? And there's a Vesica Pisces over the top. Oh, sorry, a Vesica Pisces. Forgive me, I keep saying Pisces. And then I rewatched the episode after I'd made it. And then I was like, oh shit, there's actually something in there. So I spent about 2 days drawing various shapes and things like that over it until I derived all the angles, and a much more primitive version of that I put over it, and that's a much more advanced version of what I called the pattern.
You know, Close Encounters of the Third Kind, with the mashed
Potato Mountain. Is that what that is to you? No, I've never had that vibe from it. No.
Are you not channeling something when you put in
when I'm doing these things, it does feel like that. Yeah, it does. You kind of do definitely go into a bit of a trance, and like you're looking behind all these layers, and yeah, definitely a trancey thing going on there. So you'll just have to take my word for it at this point, because we'll as we advance down these next few slides, we'll get to the bottom of this. So if you'd like to go on to the next one, please.
Whoa.
Oh, that's cool, because it's a PNG. So let's not. Can we go back one? Sorry, there's something that I would like to mention. So she's opening up a vagina. She's the goddess. And what's inside the vagina of the goddess? Well, it's the internal reproductive workings of the material of the matrix.
Yes.
So one of the things I think they might be pointing at is that this is the, how would I put it? Like the crystalline geometry at the bottom of everything. If you get me?
In the fanny.
Well, that's a coding, isn't it? She's a goddess. She's opening herself up. She's letting you see her reproductive organs.
Right.
So what I'm thinking is that
her fanny.
Her fanny.
Right.
Not just fanny. Not any old minge.
Right.
So she's showing you her reproductive system workings. So I'm thinking the way they're thinking was this is like the geometry at the bottom of
creation.
Yeah.
Wow.
That is what I think. I can't prove that right now.
Where everything begins.
Yeah. And when you see, so we talked about the golden ratio. In fact, let's go on the next slide if you don't mind.
It's this one.
So that's the pattern itself. We don't need to look at that. So here's how it fits into the pyramids and Stonehenge exactly. So it does two things. It does something called squaring the circle, which is an old geometric thing. So that's there. I'll not go into that, but that's a big deal. And I can't, without you sitting there and looking at it, it's very hard to explain verbally how that matches up, because it just matches up. There's no other way of looking at it. It matches up. Yeah, we're getting that.
I'm still on the pyramid. I'm still looking at the pyramid. Well, if you look at Stonehenge, there's like an outer circle that's matched exactly. There's an inner circle that's matched exactly. The angle of the stones, any discrepancy in the angle of those stones is due to the drawing and not due to the pattern. So you can see the blue stones, what's called the blue stones in the middle. Yes.
Those are matching the angles, everything. There's nothing there out of place at all.
Who's in the middle? Who's that in the Vesica Piscis, do you think?
That's me,
chief druid.
On New Year's Day.
Yeah.
Off my head on mushrooms.
Yeah, and then sort of next to a plan view of the pyramid. Yeah. It always strikes me odd as how the King's Chamber is off center in the Great Pyramid.
Yeah, well, the peak of it's got a line going through it. The bottom left hand corner's got a line going through.
Oh,
it.
yeah,
the shaft going up.
I'm not saying it doesn't correlate. It's always
no, I didn't think it was.
When you look at the plan of the pyramid, you think, why did they, because they were such great, but why didn't they put it directly above? But there must be a reason.
Yeah. It's usually in those discrepancies they're telling you the biggest things.
Yes, yeah, the giveaway. That's the giveaway. Something isn't right here. You need to look at this because that's where the truth lies. Yeah,
and although Egypt's fascinating, going into these specifics too much for me, I was on another path. Egypt's, another rabbit hole.
Exactly. Yeah. Okay.
Right, now here we go. This is what's at the bottom of the pattern. That is the pattern without the heptagon on there, the septagon. However, I've left the pyramid on there, and now we can see that there's a 3, 4, 5 triangle at the top. If we look in the top left-hand corner, I've actually put the measurements on there, so you can see 3 squares down, 4 squares across, compared to the 11 and 11 of the Earth and the Moon. Those are the exact sizes, scales of the Earth and the Moon together, and it all comes from this Vesica of Pisces geometry at the bottom. You know, this opening of the minge of the goddess, the hairy biffed of the goddess.
Now then, diameter of the Earth has a bulge, doesn't it? Now, is this a rounding error, or is this incorporated, or? So,
it is. Look, right. So we're left-brainy Westerners.
Yeah.
And we go too precise, and we're going. Oh, it's this, it's actually that. Well, what they're getting at is they're saying symbols, all these things. It's this Platonic ideal come down to the real world, so it's not quite as perfect. It's not 360 days, it's 365. So what do you do on those 5 days? We fuck it off and get drunk. That's what they did.
Yeah, I get what you're saying.
Yeah.
We're being too precise.
We're looking at symbols and these close approximations and these wonderful rhymes and this poetry of the universe. Yes, the Earth has an equatorial bulge. Yes, that actually changes depending on where the moon is around the Earth and where the sun is and what season it is and all these other things. Right, yeah. But as an average, just like the processional numbers, there's certain times we're going slower, there's certain times where it's going faster. It's just in the middle when you use all this stuff together. They get in at a teaching method. They're not getting hung up on all these little details. What they're doing is putting a system together of near enoughs to teach you all this stuff.
I get you.
Now, I will say that when I was 15 years old and my mystical side started to really come to fruition, every night, I was 15 in 1994, every night, I remember, for some strange reason, I would see 11:11 on the clock.
Oh, right.
And then 11:11 kept popping up to me all the time. And my YouTube channel's Brother Bones 11:11. Brother Bones is one of my old bands. 11:11 always followed me. Not for years, to be honest. I feel maybe I've advanced beyond that. But I did realise that if you look at the geometry of the Earth, there, it's 11 by 11 units, and it's 7 units from the top to the top of the pyramid. So you know. It's these same things over and over again. A lot of people talk about the 11:11 phenomena.
Wow.
Since the internet, obviously 1995 is a little bit pre-modern internet.
And that 11:11 is derived by the 3, 4,
5
triangle of the moon.
Mm-hmm. Being that. So now if we look on the right, we got the literal size of the Earth and the moon. Diameter of the moon, 2160. The radius, 1080. You know, half of the moon plus half of the Earth is 50/40.
Yeah.
Earth is 7,920. You can add all those up. They're all 9, and they're all those numbers that we saw in the 3, 4, 5 triangle.
And they're all multiples of 9.
Yeah,
obviously. Yeah,
it's just absolutely bizarre. And I'll tell you, as of my work that I've got lined up and stuff that I've preliminarily looked at. That outer circle is actually representative of the sun at a certain ratio compared to everything else. So you could literally put the sun in there and then do a little mathematical tweak. I forget what it is. And it's the size, it's correct to the size of the sun at a scale. And that scale being one of these numbers. Jupiter, Mars, I didn't get as far as Saturn, Venus, Mercury, so interesting, being the messenger of the gods, and Hermes, mes being like a measurement, the thing between one thing and another. This ratio idea, this relationship we've got between one amount, the gap between, and then another amount. But like I said, I don't want to go into too much because I'll ruin the few things I've left from my book and not splurged all over your podcast titties.
What does it all mean? What does it mean?
Oh, mate. The worst thing is, I started off... Look, either the universe has had so many iterations and failed attempts and has somehow come to these things of its own evolution. Or I was totally wrong when I said Catholics are full of shit. I went to Catholic school, everybody. I don't mean everybody else out there.
We're the same.
Yeah,
we went to Catholic school.
I was like, what are you doing showing me this guy being tortured, trying to do all this mind control stuff on me, asking me into a booth with a weird priest, getting me to spill my beans about stuff I've done. So you know what I've done and I've got no idea about what you've done. It was obvious to me. It was obvious to me because I was using those same tactics to get away with shit in school. Do you know what I mean? I was using mind control and stuff like that, being all sweet with the teachers and then nicking food from the cupboard. Do you know what I mean? I was using those same tactics, and yeah, there's a fingerprint of
God.
Yeah,
like an argument for intelligent design. Then, just in these repeating patterns of numbers.
Well, it's as if there was a high wisdom in the first things placed down there. It went, and the best analogy is the 4 elements, weirdly, but it went like 4 numbers. Is essentially what it said. It went, right, we got the number 1, which is you're a 1, you're a 1. I'm a 1. The whole thing's a 1. Those cells are 1. So there's smaller ones and greater ones. So, there's no such thing as really one thing. These are all these arbitrary things we were talking about, like with the geometry. Then you've got 2, which is like me and you. But then that makes 3 because I've got me, you, and this me-you system we've got going on. We've got this information sharing, and we're kind of having a knowledge baby now. Now we're having a conversation.
Yeah, 3 can't exist without 1 and 2.
Yeah, and then 3 can't exist on its own either because this knowledge baby suddenly is something else. and this 1-2 system's now a 4th system that starts again, and then we have another conversation and we have this knowledge baby, and then we're new again. And it's a repeating cycle. And this is Pythagorean philosophy. This is his understanding of number.
A lot of the Gnostic sort of cosmology starts with this, the logos.
Yeah, the logos.
Being the word is number 1, and
word up.
Sophia, wisdom. It's, the way the ancients had of trying to make sense of creation is quite profound.
Have we done 2 hours again without getting to the end?
Yeah. We go again.
I'll tell you what, though. I mean, yeah, no, we have to, because there's stuff on the end of this. Like, okay, I'll tell you now, and we'll go through it properly later. And this was for the article I did for Graham Hancock a couple of years ago now, and the other video I made. Due to Photoshop, I was able to take that pattern, which had actually, I hadn't only drawn it over that Sheelney gig, I'd also taken lots of alchemical patterns and things. The tarot's drawn with this as well, and many other things are drawn with it, including Solomon's Temple is drawn by Isaac Newton, and the Vitruvian Man is drawn by Da Vinci. I found it on a cave wall 40,000 years ago.
Oh, shit.
Do you want to, should we have a quick look at it now? Just like a really quick look as a little tease. It's pretty much the I think it's the penultimate slide.
Oh, there's our mate, Baphomet, with sits.
It's taking it back to game. There's your Sonic Keystone.
This is Jehovah Trapezium. The keystone. The keystone of the arch.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
We got the... this is
Freemasonic
as fuck.
Don't tell them.
The handbag.
The handbag.
Carry on.
Those images, those 2 things juxtaposed next to each other are like 4,000 years apart.
So we've got like a modern Masonic,
we're spoiling it.
Oh, sorry. Where am I going
There's your
forward?
handbag. Keep going. Yeah, keep going.
Class 3.
Keep going. Keep on cruising. Keep going. Keep going. Keep going. We're nearly there. Right, there you go. Okay. I'll tell you, do the next one. Can you see his bum?
Yes.
There's a triangle there. Can you see his horn? See the circle? The horn goes with the circle.
Yes.
Can you see his belly, his back? The limits of his back are on the line at the top. The limits of his legs are either on the square or in the circle. Every limitation, every place where something terminates, apart from the end of his tail there, is in the pattern. Everything. The eye, everything. The muzzle is on that line.
And this is from Altamira Caves in Spain, 35,000 BC.
So 37,000 years ago.
This is, it goes back to Plato's theory of forms again.
I mean, part of me would say, oh yeah, they were so good at drawing, butchering and stuff. They knew the animal and your golden ratio, so you can't help but do it. But that's not enough. I'm sorry, but that's...
Yeah, but we can't help but look for rational answers because it's irrational, isn't it?
I mean, the thing for me was that horn at the front and his bum it's not...
But we have to test, don't we? We have to test these things as best we can.
Can you go back a couple? Just.
Oh.
Yeah. I mean, that's a cracker. He's got a mushroom in his hand. He's got the wheel of time in his hand, and you can just see everything is literally drawn to those angles. Wow. That's on a cave in America.
That's
so this thing's everywhere.
This is North America, so is it probably Mayan or Incan or
I don't know
Olmec or something? Who knows?
I just don't know. This was. I think it's near the. I can't remember where it was.
Yeah,
I think it's near the Grand Canyon kind of thing. I think it's a bit more. Don't quote me on that though.
But we're getting these same relationships. It's nuts.
But you can see that you can see. I mean, even look at there's a little character there next to the mushroom with his horns out, and it's like everything is following the angles of the pattern. Yeah, that's the most sensible thing I've said all night. Go on, I'll show you another one quickly. Go on, sorry.
They did a lot of experiments, people drawing on acid and all kinds of stuff, like random shit. I wonder if you could put any of this over some of those, or I suppose it's a big stretch, but if you asked someone on mushrooms to draw a specific thing,
mate, that is not a big stretch at all. 40,000 years ago was a big stretch. Just saying that maybe I would be happy to do that, and I'll probably do that in the next couple of days. I'll let you know.
Cool.
I'll send you the stuff. In fact, I'll bring it with me next time.
Yeah, that'd be cool.
It's fucked up, isn't it?
Yeah. It's
and I could sense when I first showed you this pattern on the pillars and that, you're like, okay, yeah, maybe. But then, and there's a lot. It's not okay. I've pulled out certain ones for you guys to look at, and you could say, well, he's somehow found these things happen to match exactly. But I've got so many of them. Let me show you one last one.
Go on.
Could you do the
what, forward or backwards?
We're on ZX again.
Yeah, ZX Spectrum.
Do you remember those from before?
Okay. Hamlet Smell.
Okay, so here we go. Yeah, they were in Hamlet Smell. So,
wow.
So that's Manly P. Hall's drawing of the Holy Grail.
Yes.
Fits perfectly. And notice the two rings on the outside. Yeah, which would have been the moon on that diagram of the Earth and the moon with the pyramid in it, yeah?
Fuck yeah.
So those two are the moon. But then if you look, that's the oldest thing we've got from Egypt at all. And can you see the two ringtails fit exactly over everything else?
Holy shit.
And also...
Fucking hell!
I'll also question, what the fuck are they? They look like dinosaurs to me. I'm sure they're slightly symbolically represented, but they look like dinosaurs to me.
Hey, aren't they a bit like that other one in the middle that we couldn't identify?
Yeah, the mythical beast with the long neck.
Oh, right, yeah.
The Narmer palettes from Egypt, 3,100 BC.
That's the oldest artwork
before the pyramids.
That's before any of that's pre-dynastic.
Yes, so standard chronology puts the Khufu at 2,450 BC, roughly. This is 600 years before that. And we've got these bearded guys above. Oh my gosh! And they look like they're turning a circle. Whoa! These guys have lion's heads. They look like twisty lion's heads.
Oh, I'll give you that.
That looks like a caduceus.
It is a caduceus. Yeah.
Fuck, that's amazing. And the way the rings of these creatures' tails maps perfectly with the rings of Manly Palmer Hall's Holy Grail drawing is crazy.
If you look to the bottom, so how you've got to imagine this was being done was that it was a series of a wooden frame. This is how I imagine it. I'm not sure. A wooden frame, nails, strings, all making this pattern. And then you're placing it in different... And because it's fractal... So I'll go over this quickly because I said it before. So that 4-3-2 triangle is in golden ratio. If you don't know what golden ratio is, tough shit. I'm not telling you that. Right, golden ratios are a beautiful ratio that allows growth, because in the intervals between each progressive number, it allows things to form a pattern that doesn't interfere with itself. So when a sunflower grows, which is a great example of this, all those seeds in the middle, one's not trying to grow over the other seed. They're all just growing in this continuous, beautiful, harmonious, disharmonious pattern, weirdly, because nothing's interfering with itself. It just grows, and it can grow exponentially large. So you've got these two angles. These two ratios. It's actually 1.61 to 1. There's your ratio.
Yeah.
1.61 parts to 1 part. That pattern there has something I'd never heard of before, and it took me a lot of investigating, and that's called the golden trisection, which is like the golden ratio would be in 2 dimensions, wouldn't it? It's a length or a width or whatever. Well, that's in 3 dimensions. It's got a length, a width, and a breadth, a depth, whatever you want to call it. The 3rd dimension. You can't see it on there, but
if you made this 3D,
if
the 7-sided.
No, you don't even have to make it 3D. That's the beautiful thing. It's still in 2 dimensions. It's hard to explain.
You know, 1.61 to 1 adds up to 9.
Oh shit! No, it doesn't.
Yeah, 1.6.
1 is
1.
7. So 1 is
to 1. Yeah, but if you got 1, 6, 1, 1.
That's
1.61
plus 6 is 7.
All right,
plus
course,
1.
idiot. Sorry, yeah, that was my fault. Yes, you are totally right. I am a total idiot. It is 9. All right, my head's breaking now. So you can. I'll explain. I'll set up a slide for you for next time, and I'll show you how this golden trisection works. Basically, you kind of take 3 continuing lines, and it is this ratio. I've actually got a slide already done for something else that I'll bring in, and I'll show you how it all works.
What's pi?
3.6, 3.618,
3.14.
4157982, 3.1415792.
There's another magic number, not the golden ratio.
137.
1.37.
No, it's just 137. The thingy's favourite number. What's his name?
What was it?
Famous physicist.
Steve Jobs.
Fermat? No.
Fermis?
The guy that worked on the bomb.
Name? Oppenheimer.
No. Young American guy at the time.
I have become Death Destroyer of Worlds.
Dr. Manhattan.
Put your willy away, you blue weirdo. Famous American physicist.
Elton John.
Feynman.
Richard Feynman. Thank you very much. Yeah, 137 would be the number that all physicists have on the wall because they can't figure it out. Oh, God, I'll bring you another slide because 137 fits into this as well. But I'll bring that. Yeah, I'll bring that next time. But there you go. I think that's a good place to end it. Even though we're going to go through all these, isn't it? And there's a few more that you've not seen in there, including that Paimon by Carl Jung being to the ratio, to that pattern, and a few other things.
I need to get into Carl Jung. I've not read any Carl Jung, and I keep getting signals from the universe that it's something I need to look into. I just don't know where to start.
Man and his symbols.
Right. Is that not going to be too advanced?
No.
I want
it's written, but not just by Jung, by other people, but it's written for you specifically.
Oh, right.
I bet there's a Jung for dummies book.
Jung for the youth. Jung for youth. Jung.
Jung for the young.
The first porn film I ever watched was a German porn film called Young and Brutal, and I just thought they spelled it wrong. Yeah, it was all adults going around in nappies and dummies and stuff.
Oh, God.
Oh, my God. Yeah. And you thought it was going to be about Carl Jung?
Yeah, that's why I watched it over and over and over and over again.
Oh, my God. Look, we're going to have to go.
God, it's gotten smelly in here.
Yeah, we're going to have to go and come back again and do some more.
Well, at least we got through the maths, and I wasn't lying this time.
No. This is the creek. Don't you open that trap door. Because there's something down there.
Right,
Right.
Oh, Globbits.
Thanks for coming again, Ryan.
You're welcome,
Yeah,
mate.
cheers,
Enjoyed
man.
it tonight. And you're going to have to come back again in a few weeks and carry on.
Oh, shit.
Yeah. I'm loving it. Loving it, loving it, loving it.
I'm
You
not,
don't think?
I'm not raising to that one.
Save Plotland.
Right. We're gonna disappear and have a break and then come back and do a little bit of housekeeping and say goodnight.
A little bit.
And
Yeah.
it's been a pleasure as always, Ryan. Thanks for coming.
Yeah, cheers, Ryan. Mind blown again.
Yeah. Splash.
No sleep.
It's all over the back of the walls.
Yeah.
Just
No sleep for
remnants.
Amish Ben.
Remnants of brain behind me. Right. Sayonara, suckers.
Bye.
Adios.